So earlier in our video, talk about testing starts with testing the requirement document itself. If the requirement document is wrong, you're going to build wrong application all the way through, right? So when the testing starts from the requirement document. So now I think people sometimes they make mistakes. What is that mistakes? They automatically assume, especially in your first career, imagine you're in software development environment. Today is your first day, this month's your first month. You automatically assume everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody is so experienced that you're the only one who's so new that everything they do is right and what you do is probably wrong. So I want to tell you, when you graduate, you're going to be top 20% of the market from this program. So I want you to believe in yourself. Number one. Number two, as a software testers, we should be suspicious all the time until until they prove they're innocent, they're guilty. Okay, the applications, until you test it and making sure everything is right, you should assume it's wrong. You cannot assume the requirement document is right, and you cannot assume that business analyst knows everything. So what do you do now? You're going to start evaluating the requirement document. By the way, it's not your job to write good requirement document, but it is your job to take a look, evaluate, and if you find something wrong, give feedback. Okay, now there's so many ways to evaluate requirement document. So one of the simple criteria that I want to give you is called SMART criteria. SMART. What is SMART? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and a time bound. What does that mean? When you say users should be able to save their e-receipt in their account, what do you mean by that, right? It's not specific, it's ambiguous. So you should say, for example, registered user for Zen receipt application should be able to save their receipt in their cloud account. So this is a little bit more specific, right? We're going to get into that in the future, even deeper, but today, this is more than enough. Instead of this application, everybody should be able to save their receipt, you should say registered user for zenreceipt.com should be able to save their receipt at the time of purchase. The more specific requirement is, the better requirement it is. But if the requirement is ambiguous, if you say, oh, this application should look very nice, should be beautiful, should be user friendly, how do I know? How do you measure? How do you understand it's beautiful or user friendly? It could be beautiful for you, but ugly for somebody else, right? That is why it has to be specific. In terms of measurable, you cannot say, oh, in our application, a lot of people should be able to use our application. Can I measure that? How do you measure a lot of people? You should say whether 10,000 concurrent user, 100,000 concurrent user, or million concurrent user at the same time should able to interact in our application. The server should not crash. So it has to be specific. You cannot say your username and password when you click login, user should be able to log in very fast. What do you mean? How do you measure very fast? You should say under a second, under 2 seconds. I can measure 2 seconds. I can measure 20,000 user, but I cannot measure very fast, very slow, a lot of people. So it has to be measurable. Now, when you say achievable, also, can you imagine that somebody says, I want to be able to sell in their application, right? So, for example, if the requirement document says we want to build a functionality where sellers and the buyers can meet each other, right? So you're talking about Amazon. It's not achievable. The requirement document, specific requirement should be achievable requirement. You don't want to create such a requirement that in the specific period of time, you cannot achieve. Sometimes they just put their goal too ambitious, too big, and then what's going to happen is it's going to create lots of chaos in the software development environment. When you have a requirement, I want you to take a look. Is this requirement realistic for us to build, right? So that is achievable, relevant. What does that mean? Imagine, right? Let's say while checkout, you know that your application is a little bit slow, so you have like a 15-second time. Can you say, oh, instead of like this 15-second people just looking at the spinning screen, why don't we play some TikTok videos? Why don't we insert some 15-second TikTok videos or people can play game? It is not relevant for your current application. You have to stay focused in your application area. Sometimes when you see that people get excited, they come up with certain crazy functionalities or requirement that has nothing to do with your application. Your application should be consistent. That means that it has to be relevant. So what is time bound? Time bound is also very important, which means that the requirement document should clearly mention when do you want to achieve certain things. We want to be very successful one day. What do you mean? So now, SMART criteria is not only useful for a requirement document, it's also good for you too. You don't want to say, I want to learn Java very well. That is not smart, right? For example, I want to learn intermediate level Java until this time. I want to pass the certification until that time. So when you also creating your own goal, it's going to be very specific as well. During this program that you study, also, I want you to have specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and a time-bounded goal for yourself, where you will say, every day, I want to study a lot. No, I want to study 4 hours or 2 hours. I want to do this many coding challenges. I want to do that many times. So everything you want to do in this program is also has to be smart. Build a smart goal for yourself. Smart criteria is very, I believe, useful, whether it's evaluating your requirement document or creating a smart goal for yourself. So you're going to be more successful during this program. Have a good day.